I'd like to call to order the Mount Olive Township Council conference meeting of July 24th, 2012. Can you please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by a moment of silent reflection in honor of those that are serving to defend our freedoms. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Lisa, can you please read the Open Public Meetings Act announcement?
According to the Open Public Meetings Act, adequate notice of this meeting has been given to the Daily Record. Notice has been posted in the Municipal Building, 204 Flanders Drakestown Road, Mount Olive Township, New Jersey, and notices were sent to those requesting the same.
Roll call.
Mr. Perkins?
Here.
Mr. Mania?
Here.
Mr. Ferrante?
Here.
Mr. Nicastro?
Here.
Mr. Walsh? Mrs. Laybow? Mr. Roman?
Here. Let the record reflect that Ms. Laybaugh's absence is excused. All right, the first item up to the agenda is an award presentation for the Mount Olive Boys 10-year-old District State Baseball Championships. Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. How's everyone doing tonight? You guys doing okay? I have to tell you that as good as you guys are doing, all of us sitting up here are doing better because we're so proud to be here today to honor you guys. It's an incredible achievement that you guys accomplished this year, being the 10-year-old district state baseball champions. I know that Mayor LaCitra was at the games and has told me about how well you guys played, and I know I speak for everyone sitting up on the council tonight that we hope that we see you back next year as the 11-year-old champions as well. We have certificates. I'd like to call the coaches up at this point. Congratulate you guys. Congratulations. And then we'll call up each one of the team members, and I'd ask that you all stay up here so that we can do a picture afterwards. Michael Cowan. Brett Ellis. Nicholas Ferreira. I apologize if I mispronounce anyone's name. John Kreusch. Angus Connor McClatchin. How do you pronounce the last name? McLaughlin. William Paoli. Evan Peralt. Trevin Reed. Thomas Romanelli. Sean Sandak. William Schwarrick. Let me guess. Jacob Sussman. I have certificates for the coaches as well, which I'll just hand over to you. Did you want to say anything before I call up Mayor LaCitra?
You're closest. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Appreciate this. Council, thank you very much. I'd like to present, this is this year's District 7 Champ Trophy. last year's District 7 champ trophy. Unfortunately, we don't have the 8-year-old one that we had won 2 years ago. Can't say much more about these boys. We're extremely proud. Cardiac kids, anytime going gets tough, they play their best. So this is a well-deserved recognition for the boys.
You want to come up and say a few words?
Thank you, Mayor. Alex, Council President, would you come up here? You know, a nice part about working for a state senator is you can get some things done that normally other people can't do or won't do, but I would like to present you with a State of New Jersey, you and the Mayor, a Senate and General Assembly citation. And this says, commendations and praise are extended to Mount Olive 10-year-old boys baseball team by the citizenry of the 24th New Jersey Legislative District through their elected representatives for demonstrating exemplary determination, skill, and team effort in winning the State District Cal Ripken Championship on June 30th, 2012. It's signed by Senator Stephen Oroho, Assemblywoman Allison McCose, and Assemblyman Gary Chisano. I don't know if you really know that these kids, I mean, they made me feel young for the last 3 years, but this is a three-peat. I don't think in all the years we've ever, Mount Olive has ever had a three-peat where somebody has won 3 district championships in a row. But anyway, Mayor and Council President and the boys, this is the citation, and then there's a picture of you guys down over there with your names on it, and it'll be hung, Mr. Council President, somewhere in the municipal building, so they can come up and take a look at it. When you come up, take a look at it. Take a look at my picture. My confidence.
I mean, this will definitely be hung up with pride in Mount Olive. I mean, as some of you may know, I also coach, Mount Olive. Unfortunately, it's still the softball side, and no matter where I go throughout the state, even sometimes out of state, Mount Olive has made themselves a reputation for being a baseball powerhouse. You know, when you wear that hat, Southern Jersey, Maryland, sometimes, all they talk about is the championships that they've lost against us. So I mean, these guys not only demonstrated their ability, but they've gone on to do the legacy of all players before them, and I'm pretty sure the players that are going to follow them. So congratulations to everybody.
Come on, guys.
Pack them in.
To reflect that Councilman Walsh is present. Okay, we're on to resolutions. There are 15 resolutions. Does anyone have any questions or comments on any of the resolutions? Mr. Mayor, on the third resolution, the one for a Donald J. Parks, can you tell me what's that in reference to?
Yeah, sure. Jim?
I'm sorry, Council President, that was the Donald J. Parks?
Correct.
That's the capital expenditure repair of the fleet garage roof.
Okay.
What we're doing is we're not replacing the roof. This vendor gave us the option of a repair, and that's what we've elected to do this year.
Okay, and what's the expected longevity of that repair?
15 years.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
And then the only other resolution I have a question on is the one regarding the abatement of certain nuisance properties. I'm assuming that's your department too? Or Mr. Mayor, do you have any, my question basically is, how often do we do this? Is this a rare?
What goes on with this, actually this falls under, was generated by Frank Wilpert Jr. from our zoning office.
Okay.
We work with Mr. Wilpert Jr. Every 2 weeks, roughly, is what it's been. When it got dry, we did not have to take as much action because nothing was growing as vigorously. Roughly every 2 weeks, myself, one of my staff, or Mr. Wilpert will, even if he has the opportunity, go out and just keep the properties in a semi-maintained state so that the neighbors are placated. As you can tell, it's probably very distasteful to have an unmaintained home next to yours. So that these are additional properties that have come onto the list.
And how many properties in totals do we have on that list?
Somewhere between 6 and 8 right now, if I remember correctly.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
And I see that the generator bid came in overpriced. Are we going to go back out to bid for that, or are we abandoning that effort?
No, we are actually back out to bid already. What we have done, the first time the bid went out, it was as a turnkey project for the generator and for the installation, the connection to the building's power source. It came back in as a generator only for $60,000. We've gone back out, we've broken it into a two-part bid, one to provide the generator, one to provide the connection of the generator to the building. That way, if it comes in over this time, we have the ability to purchase the generator and use our contract electrician to do the hookup. Preliminary cost indicated that the only bid we received in the last bid was severely out of line with costs.
Okay. All right, thank you very much. Mr. Perkins?
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd just like to comment on the first two resolutions for Sustainable Jersey. The participation, I guess, for us to get recertified again. This, for everybody who doesn't remember, Mount Olive was one of the first 32 municipalities in the state to receive certification under the Sustainable Jersey program. It's to promote green and sustainable practices throughout the community, thereby hopefully not only better quality of life for all of the residents, but also some tax savings with some of the renewable things that may be able to be done. So kudos on us going back in, especially looking for the grant. I'm always happy if, we put it in. I think we put it in the other 2 years, and we weren't successful, but we stick it in every year. Let's see if we can't get the grant to do some work. So great work by the administration following up on that. Thank you, Mayor.
Mr. Mania?
Back to that generator, if I may. You said you only got one bid for the generator. Did we publish that in the CDN?
Yes, actually, Mr. Mania, 7 packages were sent out for that bid. Only one was returned as a responsive bidder. So everything was done. Christie had it publicized. Unfortunately, we did not receive the packages we had hoped to.
So being only one bidder, are we going to reject that bid?
We rejected, not because it was one bidder, it was over the capital budget threshold we set.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, anyone else?
I have an old business, but
No, yeah, we'll go on to later.
not yet. Okay, just want to make sure.
Nobody else on the resolutions? Okay, seeing none, we're on to ordinance. Ms. Dagan, this is regarding the ordinance to permit seasonal sponsorship signs. Did everyone get a chance to see the memorandum, Mr. Nacasio? I noticed that we removed the language from that non-commercial language to seasonal sports sponsorship signs.
Correct. So the idea is to be able to let our local businesses benefit from a dedicated audience that'll be seeing their signs and that they're supporting that program. It's a mutual arrangement.
Now, I know we're going to be having uniform as far as size. Are we going to limit as far as lettering and logos?
No, we're not going to limit the lettering or the logos. We are asking either for a white background or a white border around it, so there's some uniformity of look to it. But logos are welcome. What we don't want to have are personal messages. We want it to be, this is the business that's sponsoring it. We don't want Go Johnny. We don't want whatever, because you move into personal messages and then we become not really gearing towards the businesses. We want to be able to benefit the businesses in town that are supporting the program.
I would have to assume that maybe a message, say, if, let's say, football decides to, say, go Mount Olive, I'm assuming that'll be allowed. That's not...
The proposal shows that everything has to be submitted to the Recreation Department for review. Because unfortunately, sometimes there are unintended consequences to words that are chosen or images that are chosen. They can be taken the wrong way. They're not intended initially that way, but they can be interpreted the wrong way. So we want to be able to look at all that. So all of it has to pass by my desk and Jim's purview as well before we'll let it go.
And if I recall, it's up to the sports organizations to maintain them, to make sure they go up and down at the appropriate time. It's not going to be our
Correct.
responsibility.
Yep, all their responsibility.
Excellent, excellent. I'm sure they're looking forward to it. Does anybody on council have any questions? No? All right. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Thank you, Jill.
Okay, we're on to our first old business. Does anyone have any old business? Mr. Walsh?
Yeah, I just brought a copy of the just a rough draft of the MOTV policy. I just wanted to make sure everybody got it. We also emailed it out to everyone. This is for those two down there. Actually, I don't know, you don't need one probably, okay. And I just wanted to make sure everybody had a copy and printed one out for everyone, and just to help out a little bit. We have discussions in place or going on about the policy. If you have any comments, feel free to send them to me or Sean or to Alex, because we're all involved in putting this together.
Mr. Nicastro?
I did have just one quick question, maybe for Fred too, because I did read this earlier when I saw it. I know there's no commercial advertising on here, which means commercials and all, obviously, for businesses. What's the difference if is there any possibility of the, you know how PBS does it? Is that considered legal because of the fact that if we wanted someone to be able to pay for production, and at the end it just said brought to you by, and it just puts their name up there like PBS does, which is a government entity as well, I believe.
Right.
Is that something that we considered, so we can maybe get covered costs of productions if we want to do more shows?
I think that's been discussed in one form or another. I think it's something I can go back and take a look and see with respect to our franchise agreement as well, to see if we can do that or not. You know, it would be limited if that be the case, but again, it would have to be even-handed. So I can go back, you know, there's our comments in here as well. We went through this policy, so I would have no problem taking a look at that and giving you an interpretation.
I appreciate that.
That'd be great.
Does anybody else have any other questions? Mr. Perkins?
Thank you, Mr. President. I had a brief moment after I got the email to go through this. I have a couple issues with it. I'm sure that we're going to put this on for full discussion.
Right.
This was just brought up.
Yeah, I
Right,
think
yeah.
it's just a matter of, let's introduce it.
Make sure everybody's got a
I would-
copy of a rough
yeah,
draft.
I'd
so that this is-
like for everyone to read it, email their suggestions, and I think probably within the course of the next 2 weeks, we should be able to hammer out any, corrections or additions to it, and then bring it up for a full discussion. But at this time, if you want to say,
No,
get on the record.
I'd rather hold the comments till later, Mr. President. I mean, there's minimum, 16, 20 of them that I have, that's all.
Well, if you could email us to some folks so they can be addressed before the next meeting, that'd be great.
I'll send them through to the township attorney so that we don't have discussion among the council members via email.
I got you.
Well, I'd like to at least have this hammered out in the next couple of weeks, and then put it on for full discussion for the next meeting. So if everyone can at least within the next week or so, get, email whatever they have. All
Yeah,
right.
if you're gonna have a real long, discussion and questions about something, if you could let all of us know so that we're prepared next meeting with any response to anything.
Sure.
That'd be great. Thank you.
All right. And I'd like to give you kudos, Mr. Walsh, for taking this bull by the horn and spearheading it through. It's going to be a great addition to Mount Olive.
Thank you, Mr. President.
All right, anybody else with old business? All right, new business. Anybody? Okay, seeing none. I'd like to have our first public meeting. Does anyone from the public wish to be heard on anything? Step up to the podium, please. Name and address for the record.
Hi, everyone. This is my first time here, so excuse my nervousness. My name is
If
Jennifer
you could
Harvey.
speak directly into the mic.
My name is Jennifer Harvey. I live at 31 Elizabeth Lane in Bud Lake. I'm here representing the neighbors of Stonewall Court, and I have a few questions for you. Would you like me to ask them all at once and then you can respond, or do you want me to ask them one at a time?
Why don't you ask them all at once, and then,
Okay, that's fine.
All right.
However is better for you guys. I'm not familiar with the process. We would like to know what the current status of Ordinance 19-2012 is. We would also like to know how the council determined that the public's best, and I quote, interests will be served by the acquisition of the property for redevelopment and a site for affordable housing without any input from the tax-paying homeowners directly affected by this initiative. This ordinance and published articles make it clear that the council is aggressively pursuing this property in coordination with the AHTF and Homeless Solutions Incorporated. We as neighbors have major concerns regarding the proposed project and would like to make a formal request to meet with you, the council, to orchestrate a transparent dialogue addressing and accurately assessing the concerns of the people in regards to the viability of this proposed housing project at this location. We would like to do this before the council pushes further in your commitment to build 20 low-income houses in the center of a single-family neighborhood that has no access to public water.
Okay. Well, on your first question, ordinance 19-2012 was passed.
Okay.
On the remaining questions, I'd like to direct them to Mr. Mayor.
Okay. It was passed as in the ordinance is now final passage, approval, and publication as required by law. That has been completed.
Yeah, we had a
Okay.
first reading, then we had a public meeting. and
Okay.
It passed.
So I can let them know that that's been followed through with?
Yes.
Okay.
It's difficult for me to answer the specific questions, and I'll try and do the best that I can.
Okay.
And if I don't hit one of the questions that you raised, I was trying to write them down, then please direct me back to that question if I haven't hit it. There came a point in time, and you weren't at the last meeting, where
I
this was
actually
discussed.
just unfortunately learned of this by a concerned elderly neighbor that came to me and said that they're up in arms having heart palpitations because they're concerned of the effect on our neighborhood.
I understand that, and I can tell you that we went through this exercise when Homeless Solutions, and again, Homeless Solutions is a misnomer. They provide affordable housing, people with a certain level of income. It's not that we're bringing people who are necessarily homeless people and sticking them in the middle of a neighborhood.
Right, I'm familiar with it. I
Okay.
researched the
Yes, and Homeless
organization.
Solutions, if you look at the developments that they've done in Morris Plains, and you look down at the bottom of Washington Township, I mean,
Yes.
I've heard all kinds of rumors about the amount of police that have been going into the one in Washington, which is completely untrue. After we heard that rumor, I went back and had our police chief contact Long Valley. They've had a couple of calls, but every neighborhood has a couple of calls, and it's dependent upon what actually happens, and most of them appear to me to be domestic violence kind of calls. So it's not a situation where those units have created any type of police problem, and I don't expect that we would have any kind of problem as we move forward with the Cobblestone project. The township was ultimately presented, as was every municipality in the state of New Jersey, with a forfeiture of funds issue. The forfeiture of funds was brought by the state of New Jersey, which said that if you don't spend your Affordable Housing Trust Fund by, the date was July the 17th, 2012, either
Right.
spend or commit to spending, then you would forfeit those funds. The forfeiture of the funds wouldn't in any way negate our obligation to provide affordable housing. Mount Olive is very limited in terms of where we can provide housing, because 80% of the municipality is in the Highlands area, preservation area, which can't be built. So we were looking at areas in the municipality where this affordable housing obligation could be satisfied.
Right.
The planner did the review of the available properties and ultimately came to the conclusion that, in fact, Cobblestone was the best alternative for what we were intending to do to maintain our right to spend the Affordable Housing Trust Fund. Ultimately, if we lost the Affordable Housing Trust Fund, it would have been a large hit to every taxpayer in the municipality, because we still would have had to have satisfied our gross share of affordable housing, but we wouldn't have had the money to be able to do that. And this partially gets us to the point where we need to go. Now, the property itself, Cobblestone, all of the issues were looked at. Ultimately, it was determined that that building was in severe disrepair.
It is.
Had not been maintained, was being used as an ambulance parking facility for
Right.
whatever. And that was one of the things that we looked at in terms of why this was a good property. We ultimately entered into negotiations with the property owner to purchase this property. And that's one of the reasons that it wasn't publicized, because when we negotiate with somebody, we need to keep the negotiations confidential.
Okay.
Ultimately, she expressed a desire to sell us the property.
Okay.
And then we had it appraised, and she didn't come back either for or against the sale. We were up against the deadline, and we decided that the best course of action for the municipality at that point was to move forward with the condemnation proceeding, thereby having, in our opinion, committed the funds to a project. So we are committed to this project. We don't have a choice to go to a different project. Either this project gets built, or we forfeit the funds at this point. That's where we're at. It's not that we can switch it to another project.
It's not that you can switch it to another location?
Cannot switch it to another location.
I think that it's inappropriate at best for the council to have decided without the input of the people that would be directly affected by it.
I can appreciate that, and I can also tell you that had we put it anywhere else in town, there would have been the same type of arguments made by those people, and we considered that as well. Now, having said that, all of the issues that you would want to address, this project would still need to go before the planning board, and the planning board could deny the project. But we as a council and as a governing body were required to move forward with a project, and we made the determination that this was the project. Homeless Solutions, my office, or any member of council, I assume, I can't speak for them, but I can only assume, are more than happy to sit down with the neighborhood at any point in time to discuss any issues related to this project.
But you've already pushed it to a point where there is no return. You're trying to proceed with putting it in this location, and my argument is site-specific. It's not that, I understand our obligation. I've done quite a lot of research on this. I understand how we're obligated to
Yes.
use this money.
Site-
I've also heard a rumor that other municipalities have bequeathed money to Mount Olive, some of their funding for housing. I don't know if that's true. I haven't been able to find any evidence
Not
of that.
true.
But
I don't even know that you could do that, number one, and totally not true. See, there are all kinds of
there is,
rumors.
that's why I'm here, because I really want to understand what the truth is, and I want to make it clear to you guys that to put a 20-family apartment building in the center of my single-family neighborhood is 100% inappropriate, whether it's low-income, high-income condos. You're talking about 20 families coming in and out of those little streets, 20 families draining our point wells. Our point wells are 15 to 35 feet deep. I've spoken to a well specialist. I've also spoken to the person that installed the well at the property as it stands right now. They had such a hard time finding water that they had to install a fire suppression system just to get water to the people that they have there at this time.
Yeah, I don't know what the density is on the property, but I know that the property owner could have developed that property. I don't know how many units she could have put on that property
Right.
anyway. And all of these issues will have to be addressed at the planning board level ultimately if we are successful in the condemnation action. And to the extent that you are successful in convincing the planning board that this is an inappropriate location, then that project would die, and we would then forfeit the funds back to the state. And we'd have to find another neighborhood to put our affordable housing, which we're gonna have to do anyway, because
Right.
we've only satisfied about half
Right.
of our affordable housing. And I appreciate all of the arguments you made. It's the same kind of arguments that we heard when Washington Township was looking to put in the units at the bottom of the hill. And I can tell you, as I sit here, although they're different, can't really compare apples to oranges, I understand that. But all of the arguments which are raised, and these are many of the same arguments, have just not come to fruition in terms of how it's affected the homeowners. Homeless Solutions has come in and they said, look, we will meet with the neighborhood. We will take the project and fit it into the neighborhood so that it doesn't contrast with what's already there. We will do everything we can to minimize the impact. Now, obviously, if you're having 20 families there, there's very little that you can do to minimize the amount of traffic. But I can tell you these are 1- and 2-bedroom units. for
And
the most part.
3-bedroom.
Yeah, I think there's 1 or 2 3-bedroom.
I checked the statistics on the
Yeah.
other units. I
Yeah.
know exactly how many children, adults, cars. It's a lot. I mean, I don't think that the council really has a full grasp of the impact that it has on the existing homeowners. The impact that it will have to add all of these, not only 3 years of construction. What about all the kids that live in this neighborhood?
If I can interject for 1 second there.
Sure.
When we passed that ordinance, we're not necessarily charged with having to determine whether that project and then the impact it would have on that neighborhood. Now, I believe I may have been the only one that voted against it, but that's not the way I remember, the ordinance. We were charged with, we're gonna lose these funds. This is the only way that we can maintain those funds, and this is the only project that was presented to us by the administration.
Right, which is part of the
So,
problem.
and the ordinance was to go the route of eminent domain.
Right.
So if the administration was able to get a sale, a private sale, then we would not even have to have acted on that ordinances. So now the onus is going to be on the planning board for them to do their due diligence. And I expect, you as, I guess, the spearhead of your neighborhood organization to be able to attend the planning board meetings and speak out. When I sat on the zoning board when the Homeless Solutions Project went down in Washington Township, some of the same concerns were brought up, about the element, about traffic, the same exact things that I heard the first time, and they did not come to fruition. So, but obviously this plot is a little bit different. It's in a different location.
It's in a dead-end street that's very narrow.
I know the location intimately, and I expect, Homeless Solutions to do their best to be able to fit it within the neighborhood. They will do what they can because it is in their best interest to get the project approved. But, we did, when we voted on that ordinance, it was not our charge to determine whether that project fit that neighborhood, whether the number of wells and the density and the traffic load, that was not something that we were charged to take it, Mr. Mayor.
That's correct, Mr. President.
Yeah, well, my charge is a little different than the council's charge because I am the administration and I work through the individuals that I have working for me. It's not like I went out and inspected every piece of property. We have a planning department, we have a planner who's retained by the township, and they brought this to me as the best option. My suggestion to you, rather than spend a lot of time here at the council, let's set up a meeting.
Right, that's exactly why I'm here, to try to.
Let's set up a meeting. You can call my office, Lisa Pignataro. We'll set
Okay.
up a meeting. I'll come out to the neighborhood. We can do it on site, so it's more.
That's fine.
I will bring with me the appropriate people, perhaps someone from Homeless Solutions, perhaps my planner, and let's see where we are in terms of the concerns and what answers. I can't sit here and answer all of your questions.
Right. There's a laundry list more of concerns with regards to traffic and the road congestion.
And unfortunately, this is not the body to address those concerns at this
Okay.
moment. Mr. Semmer?
Yes, Jennifer, I just want to mention a few things quickly, and it just kind of echoes what the mayor had to say, but there's a number of safeguards and considerations that were put into this. It was not just about, well, we were going to direct funding or a policy, and there's, commitments that, for an example, you mentioned water, and nothing is necessarily done. It's not like there's a stamp here that says it's going to go in this way. They being the developer, will have to make sure they clear all of the requirements like anyone else coming in. But more so in this case because things such as any type of funding that we're going to give them, they being, in this case, the developer, has to comply. There's issues about access, water, utilities. There's also the fact that they, being the developer, would have to manage this site. That was something else the planner brought up to us, that's very important. It's not like there's just going to be this type of site and there's no thought process at what happens next. This is an organization that has a track record not only about good quality construction, but just as important, they stay on and manage, so they're held
They
accountable.
don't stay on it full-time and manage. They're not, somebody's
But
not
they're,
at the location.
no, they're responsible to manage the facility. But you'll hear all those details, but I just want you to know that when we went into, made this arrangement, it's not as if it's done. This funding would be there if the developer does all the right things, and that took into consideration the neighborhood, the township's planning objectives, and I think, like the mayor said, if you have an opportunity to come to that meeting with your questions, I think a lot of them would be answered. And they're good questions, but I want to assure you, it's not just that the governing body said, we're going to put money here. There's a lot of considerations you're going to see that the planner will answer, or I'll answer, or the mayor, about that we want to do it right. It's to make it better, not just to put money there. And there's a lot of thought process there to make it right for the neighborhood.
Mr. Mania?
A couple of things. One, when we lose this funding, we're still responsible for our fair share.
Right.
So we'll have to probably have to raise taxes to meet our requirements. Secondly, I've spent many years on the planning board myself. It's not a rubber stamp thing. The developer goes through rigorous meetings. I mean, I can tell you a development that I sat on that we had 18 meetings. A year and a half the development went on. So it's not something that is considered very lightly. Planning board does its job. Lastly, Mayor, when you do this tour there, I would like to accompany you.
Very happy.
Mr. Perkins?
Thank you.
Thank you, Respect. Jen, I just received the concept plans, all right, and I emailed those all to Dave Toon, who asked me to get them to him. Unfortunately, my contact with Homeless Solutions was away on vacation, so he came back. So you'd be able to look at two separate concept plans. They're very rudimentary right now.
Mr. Perkins, could you speak up?
Can you hear me?
There we go.
Can you hear me now? So, yeah, exactly. So if you look with Dave, you guys, at least he was going to distribute it once he got it. So you'll be able to see that. As everybody said here, I mean, a lot of us have sat on the planning board. It is a lengthy process. The crux of the issue was, in a nutshell, either we did this ordinance on a property that was recommended to us by our planner and put that crummy words about eminent domain in there that we really didn't want to do. Now we've quote unquote supposedly have the money committed, which if the state and the Supreme Court have been correct, then that money can't be taken back from COA. That always remains to be seen because the state takes pretty much whatever they want. Hopefully they don't take it back. If Homeless Solutions cannot develop this site because there's an environmental impact has to be done, a traffic study has to be done, a hydrological report has to be done, all those things have to be done to the satisfaction. If any one of those fall through, then it continues to either get scaled down or it has to go somewhere else. So right now, we're just in the stage that said we need to grab the money, we need to commit it so that COA can't grab it. And the courts may ultimately say they can take it anyway, but right now they can't take it. What happens, I don't live that far from there. I'm back on Fern Avenue. I'm intimately familiar with the site. It might be a good site. I know Homeless Solutions. I work with them.
Right.
So, I mean, from that point, I could tell you that take the mayor up on the meeting. If Mr. Mania wants to be there, that's fine. Take a look at the concept plan. If this thing goes through and we get it to the planning board, most definitely come out to those planning board meetings, listen to the professionals, and voice the concerns. Because I may be one of the people out there voicing the same thing.
You know, the thing that is, the major issue is that if they were proposing to build 4 houses that looked like the rest of the bungalows that are in the neighborhood for 4 low-income families, this wouldn't be an issue. But you're talking about 20 families in apartment buildings in a neighborhood. They are attractive, don't get me wrong, well-built. I went down and personally saw them myself in Warren County. But
they're different based upon the character of the neighborhood. So
Absolutely.
everyone, if it goes forward, everyone in your neighborhood will have input into how the buildings ultimately will look and whether they're, I can't tell you.
I think it's based on what the Highlands will allow. I mean, I don't think that they can go outside the floor plan of what's existing, from what I understand.
I don't know the answer to that question. All I know is what I saw in the concept plan and when I discussed it with Homeless Solutions. But, you know, we can go back and forth forever. It's better if we
Right,
do
and that's
it.
why I just wanted to try to arrange something in the future.
If I may,
Yes.
I can tell you, I've been involved in Mount Olive politics for a long time. And all of us sitting up here, I can tell you to a person, make decisions in what we believe to be in the best interests of the municipality. No one has any personal gain here, and people who vote against it because they have concerns, whether it be a concern as to how it's going to impact the neighborhood, whether they have a concern as to whether or not eminent domain is an appropriate use for a governmental body. But whatever the case may be, I can tell you, sitting up here, every time that we've had to try and do something that affected a neighborhood, whether it was lights across the street from my neighborhood, I can tell you that argument probably went on for 3 years before it ultimately got approved. Everyone was talking about the light shining into people's houses. And if you've ever been down to Flanders Field, it really has no impact on the neighborhood. But I can tell you, meeting after meeting after meeting. Now we're looking at the potential of commercial development down in the Flanders area as well, which is going to abut residential neighborhoods as well. Ultimately, there will be a groundswell against it. Why not put it someplace else in town? Because ultimately, we look at each piece of property, and I understand your concerns, and we will address those concerns. We just need the right people at the meeting. So I'm going to give you my card. On the back is Lisa Pignataro's name.
Okay.
And you can contact her and set up a meeting.
Mr. Walsh?
Yes, and number one, I just want to thank you, ma'am.
And if I may interrupt, if I can remind everybody, speak into the microphone. Apparently, my age is getting the better of me because I am also having a hard time hearing everybody.
Okay. Well, I wanted to thank you for coming today, and I just want to let you know, too, a little bit of what the mayor said, but add to it a little. I do really believe that everybody up here wants to do the right thing and what's best for the town and the residents. And more importantly, I really think your questions are very valid. You know, we're going to disagree on things. Some people are going to get upset, and ultimately, in these things, sometimes nobody ever gets everything they want, but you end up somewhere in the middle. But I just want you to know that I think everybody here, I'm sure I speak for them when I say, we totally appreciate sincerely your questions. I think they should be answered. We may have even should have done it a little bit earlier than this, so I, for one, apologize for that. Not that it's any one person's fault at all, because I don't think it is. I think everybody's trying to do the right thing. We need this. Taxes will go up, like a few people mentioned. If this isn't done, it will hit us, and we want this to be the right thing in the right spot. So I'm glad the mayor's going to meet with you, and Mr. Maney is going to come too. I'm sure anyone up here would be willing to go if asked. So just thank you for coming.
And thank you so much for listening to me and for trying to work something out so that we can come to some kind of agreement that everybody is comfortable with, so that we don't feel like we're being so put out and left out of the decisions.
And just bear in mind that we will have a council representative at the planning board meeting, so,
Okay.
you know,
And how do I find out when those meetings occur, the planning board meeting and the,
you can check the town website.
On the website?
Yeah.
Now, here's what you do. When you speak to Lisa Pignataro, Lisa will get you in touch with the planner, our planning director, which is Catherine Natafalusi.
Okay.
And you'll tell her that we spoke and that you want to be notified anytime that there is any issue being discussed about Cobblestone or that neighborhood.
Okay,
And she
perfect.
will contact you directly and tell you in advance that next week we're going to be discussing the Cobblestone project.
That's great.
Okay.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate your time and thank you. Thanks again.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, is there anyone else from the public that wishes to be heard? Okay, seeing none, I'd like to entertain a motion to adjourn to the public meeting.
So moved. Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, I'd like to call to order the Mount Olive Township Council public meeting of July 24th, 2012. Lisa, can you please read the Open Public Meetings Act announcement?
According to the Open Public Meetings Act, adequate notice of this meeting has been given to the Daily Record. Notice has been posted in the Municipal Building, 204 Flanders Drakestown Road, Mount Olive Township, New Jersey, and notices were sent to those requesting the same.
Roll call.
Mr. Perkins?
Here.
Mr. Mania?
Here.
Mr. Ferrante?
Here.
Mr. Nacastro?
Here.
Mr. Walsh?
Here.
Mrs. Laybow? Mr. Roman?
Here. Okay, we're on to approval of previous minutes. Mr. Perkins?
Yes, Mr. President, I move for the approval of minutes, June 26, 2012 workshop, July 10th, 2012 workshop, and public meeting.
I'll second it.
It's been moved and seconded. Roll call.
Questions, comments?
Does anyone have any questions? Yes, Mr. Perkins.
Thank you, Mr. President. I don't have, Lisa, I'm sorry, in front of me. I just got a chance, unfortunately, today to take a quick look at them. I'm pretty sure it's July 10th for the public meeting, and toward the end of the meeting, Mr. Mania got promoted to president. So,
I did.
yeah.
There was a coup.
I'm not aware of
It
it.
just says President Mania, and then it goes on for his statement, so that's
Thank you, Alex.
the only thing he could, I didn't see a motion or anything, so I just figured we needed to correct that. So.
Thank you. I'll make
Just
a
for
correction.
the record, just a typo, Lisa. I didn't get a chance, I'm sorry to get back to you with that.
Maybe Alex just doesn't know, and maybe it doesn't need to be corrected.
Is that how it happens?
We better see what Colleen has to say.
Well, let's have a roll call with the little typo to be corrected for the record.
Mr. Perkins?
Yes on the 26th, and the one that's corrected I have to abstain on anyway.
Mr. Mania?
Yes.
Mr. Frente?
Yes.
Mr. Nacastro?
Yes.
Mr. Walsh?
Yes on June 26, abstain on July 10th.
Mr. Roman?
Yes, with the caveat that I still am president. Okay, we're on to correspondence. There are 22 pieces of correspondence. Does anyone have any questions? Comments? Okay, seeing none. We're on to ordinances for public hearing. I'd like to open the hearing to the public on ordinance number 23-2012 entitled, "An Ordinance Amending Section 176-8 of the Code of the Township of Mount Olive to permit seasonal sponsorship signs in the Township of Mount Olive." Mr. Mania.
Mr. President, I move for adoption and final passage of ordinance number 23-2012.
Second.
Is there anyone from the public that wishes to be heard?
And just for the record, Council President, this is as amended. There's that.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, seeing none, any council discussion? Okay, seeing none, roll call.
Mr. Perkins?
Yes.
Mr. Mania?
Yes.
Mr. Frente?
Yes.
Mr. Nacastro?
Yes.
Mr. Walsh?
Yes.
Mr. Roman?
Yes. Ordinance number 23-2012 is passed on second reading, and I hereby direct the clerk to forward a copy of the same to the mayor and to publish the notice of adoption as required by law. I open the hearing to the public on ordinance number 25-2012 entitled, "Bond Ordinance Amending Section 3H of Bond Ordinance 13-2012 of the Township of Mount Olive in the County of Morris, New Jersey, finally adopted April 24th, 2012, in order to provide for the acquisition of a sign for the municipal building." Mr. Ferrante?
I move for adoption and final passage of ordinance number 25-2012.
I'll second it.
Anyone from the public wish to be heard? Seeing none, any council discussion? Okay, it's been moved and seconded, roll call.
Mr. Perkins?
Yes.
Mr. Mania?
Yes.
Mr. Frente?
Yes.
Mr. Nacastro?
Yes.
Mr. Walsh?
Yes.
Mr. Roman?
Yes. Ordinance number 25-2012 is passed on second reading, and I hereby direct the clerk to forward a copy of the same to the mayor and publish the notice of adoption as required by law. I open the hearing to the public on ordinance number 26-2012 entitled, "An Ordinance Appropriating $32,850, $6,570 of which is from the Open Space Trust Fund, and $26,280 of which is from the Morris County Historic Trust Fund for the Seward House. Preservation plan and construction documents in and by the Township of Mount Olive in the County of Morris." Mr. Nacastro?
Yes, Mr. President, I move for adoption and final passage of ordinance 26-2012.
I'll second it.
Been moved and second. Anyone from the public? Seeing none, any council discussion?
Just congratulations to everybody who worked on this. I think it's wonderful.
Okay, roll call.
Mr. Perkins?
Yes.
Mr. Mania?
Yes.
Mr. Frente?
Yes.
Mr. Nacastro?
Yes.
Mr. Walsh?
Yes.
Mr. Roman?
Yes. Okay, there are no ordinances for first reading. We're on to ordinance number 26-2012 is passed on second reading, and I hereby direct the clerk to forward a copy of the same to the mayor and publish the notice of adoption as required by law. Okay, there are no ordinances for first reading, and we have 15 consent resolutions. Does anyone wish to remove any to non-consent? Seeing none. Mr. Walsh?
Yes, I move consent resolutions number 1 through 15.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Anyone from the public wish to be heard on the consent resolutions? None? Any council discussion? None? Roll call.
Mr. Perkins?
Yes.
Mr. Mania?
Yes.
Mr. Frente?
Yes.
Mr. Nacastro?
Yes.
Mr. Walsh?
Yes.
Mr. Roman?
Yes. Okay, we're on to motions. Mr. Ferrante?
I move consent motions number 1 and number 2, the bill list.
I'll second it.
Does anyone have any questions on the bill list? Okay. Roll call.
Mr. Perkins?
Yes.
Mr. Mania?
Yes.
Mr. Frente?
Yes.
Mr. Nacastro?
Yes.
Mr. Walsh?
Yes.
Mr. Roman?
Yes. Okay, we're on to administrative reports. Mr. Mayor?
I don't really have much tonight. I did hear from the Board of Education last night. We had approached the Board of Education with respect to the Corey Road improvements that had been suggested by the police department in light of past events at the entrance of the high school. The Board of Education considered our request to participate in funding, and I'll rather than paraphrase what was told to me by Dr. Reynolds, Tim Halber is here from the Board of Education to let us know what their thoughts were.
Tim Halber, 34 Saunders, Board of Ed member. In this regard, speaking for the Board of Ed in this one, Anthony Giordano, the president, was unable to attend. He's got an anniversary, so.
You can bring the mic up a little closer.
Sure can.
Thank you.
Maybe. So we did, as Rob said, we appreciate the opportunity to consider it. We took a look at it, and we would love to have helped in this matter, and we were offered to participate in the labor approach of it. But from a financial point of view, we felt that the fiduciary responsibility that we have towards the students didn't lend itself towards the fixing of the striping of the roads. So at this time, we're going to decline, but we did make the offer to Mr. Canning that if there was some way that our building and grounds could assist in this endeavor, that we'd be more than welcome to, more than willing to, sorry.
Well, I mean, I understand the financial constraints that are placed upon the Board of Education. And Mr. Mayor, correct me if I'm wrong, we will undertake this endeavor on our own if need be. Is that correct?
I've already arranged to make sure that the funding is available from the existing roads department to make the improvements that are required happen.
All right.
Because I think it would be very short-sighted to do anything else.
I agree wholeheartedly.
I agree too.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tim.
Do you have anything else, Mr. Mayor?
I expect when Mr. Canning comes back in the very near future, we're going to see a fleet maintenance proposal. I know that you've been working with Mr. Canning.
Yep.
And I think, is there anything else? That's it.
Okay. I understand you have a couple of appointments on here. You have, would you like to speak on them?
I don't have it in front of me right
well,
now. I assume you're talking about the planning board?
Yeah, you
Walter
have
Vinny and
Yeah,
Brian
I-
Schechter.
It's on the agenda, right under administrative
I know, I
reports.
don't have the agenda in front of me right now, though. It's okay, I don't need it. As you all know, Scott Van Ness has retired. He was the Class 3 member, which is an employee of the township. And so Scott will no longer be able to sit on the planning board in that capacity, which is a huge loss for the planning board because his knowledge with respect to many different areas of planning has been invaluable. I am happy to report that Scott will be remaining on the planning board. I am going to appoint him to another seat which I held open, knowing that he was going to have to give up his seat, so he will remain. I have offered, and Paul Ottavania has accepted. I have found Paul to be an exceptional individual. I think he will be a good member to the planning board. I think he's got a lot to learn in the planning area, but ultimately, I think once he gets up to speed, he will be a major contributor as well to our planning effort. In addition, I have appointed Brian Schechter as my alternate to the planning board. I found due to my busy schedule that it was difficult for me to make many of the meetings. Brian, many of you know, is a very, he's an individual who has participated on many township levels in the past, including the library, and he will be an excellent addition to the planning board as well. And those are the two appointments that I had made to the planning board.
Excellent choices. Okay, we're on to our final old business. Okay, new business. Legal matters.
Council President, I just want to say thanks to Jill for coming out tonight and being so helpful and putting together the ordinance. And that's my report for this evening. Thank you.
You know, you get paid by the word, so. Okay, we're on to council reports. Recreation, as most of you are aware, the carnival has ended, and from the preliminary reaction from the public, it was very well received. I'm sure there'll be, mailboxes have been flooded with recommendations, and I'm sure we're already preparing for next year's carnival. Board of Health, Mr. Perkins.
Yes, Mr. President. Mr. Wilpert and I spoke today. We had a full audit of our health department a few weeks back. We've got it conditionally approved. We do have a few items that need to be addressed. Some of them are kind of odd. We have workforce development. Kind of doing, Frank needs to be as the health officer for the communities that we have shared service agreements with. He needs to be an integral part of the appraisal process for those employees, and that was not something that originally was anticipated. So there's some competency training that also has to be undertaken with those communities as well as our own health employees. We have to have some memorandums of understanding to be developed for things like STDs and HIV. Our health education plan is in collaboration with the health educator. That's being worked on. There is some need to work together a bit more with our Office of Emergency Management. The emergency operations plan needs to be updated and signed, and just some things that Frank will have to work together with the Office of Emergency Management. And we have a 1 year from now to get that done. So all in all, it was an excellent audit. It was very intense. I know it took the better part of an entire day, and the staff and all was there. They were all questioned, all records were run over, and I purposely stayed away during that day. I figured it was not good for me to be there. The second item is tomorrow night we are having a special public meeting on the massage ordinance for the massage and spas. That will be the second reading, and that will be for adoption of that ordinance tomorrow evening.
Thank you. You have
Senior pick that? Want to do that with our senior liaison? Either way.
What's that?
You're the senior liaison. We're
Yeah.
talking about the senior pick. Right?
Yeah.
All right, well,
Well,
we're
it's
on
my
to
turn.
we're on to legislative. Do you have anything, Mr. Perkins?
Yes, I do. One interesting thing, Mr. President, I know just to bring you guys up to date, I had sent through to Senator Arrojo my question as we're working through the Council on Affordable Housing on the Housing Trust Fund, which is obviously the Stonehouse. My question was, if we look at things like the Clean Energy Program, which will help us in our sustainability jersey and whatnot, why, if we use those funds, could they not be considered identical to the funding that the state provides, whether that be through HMFA, Housing Mortgage Finance Agency, or directly through DCA, whether in the form of tax credits or funding? Ironically enough, from the Office of Legislative Affairs down in Trenton, the assistant attorney got back and said that the program that I'm referring to is not for new construction. Unfortunately, the young lady didn't quite understand what she was talking about. So I recanted on that and went back and said I respectfully disagree. The program was specifically set up for new construction. That's how you spur people to build better energy efficient homes. The crux of the matter boils down to, it was the state that told us, COA said, you will collect this fee from every developer who comes into your municipality, and you will use that to finance affordable housing. Well, the state now says you can't use that money to give to a proposed developer, and if that developer decides to participate in the New Jersey Clean Energy Program and build these homes to a higher standard than code, you can't get the program incentives that are strictly for the smart growth area or state funded. So I said to the person, if I took the money from my affordable trust that you're looking to steal back from all the municipalities, if we give you that money back and you give it to the developer, is he then entitled to share in the incentives that are available for building a clean energy home? And their answer is yes. So I said, but you're the ones that made me take the money, so isn't this really in effect a state program? So we're having a little battle back and forth. Supposedly Jess Spatola and their staff down in Trenton has sent it off to the Board of Public Utilities. I think it'll go a long way. Typically places like Homeless Solutions, I think we all recall when they were building at first down in Hackettstown, and we were asked to go down by some of our fellow residents and constituents down there. They built that without getting any extra money back from the state, even though they built it to a much higher standard than code. So I think it goes a long way into the state that they keep reaching into our pockets to take money out and say, well, if I take it as the state and I give it to Mr. Russell here and say, okay, now you can share in the program incentives that are available, but if that municipality keeps that money and gives it to you, you can't share in it. So it really doesn't make a lot of sense, and I think if we're going to be forced to take this money and at the behest of the state possibly lose a good portion of that money, then the least they ought to be able to do is to allow a municipality to entice the people to build to a higher energy standard and be able to incentivize them. So I will keep the council abreast, Mr. President, once I get this answer, and I don't expect anything rather quickly, but as soon as I get the answer back from the Board of Public Utilities, we may actually have a precedent that we're setting on.
I think I have just but one phrase for what you just explained. New Jersey government.
The state, just the minute the state gets involved, Mr. President, I'm baffled because I can't understand that if you told me I had to take it, then really you controlled it because you told me what I had to take. And to prove that it was yours, you're getting ready to try to take it back if I haven't spent it. So why can't I utilize it to the same benefit that you're utilizing it if it was directly to you?
Unfortunately, you're using a tool that is probably not normally seen up there at the State House, and that's logic.
Logic, yes. So I will keep the council informed of that should anything change, Mr.
Thank you
President.
very much. Mr. Walsh, do you have anything on legislative?
Just to let you know, everybody, that I spoke to Assemblyman Gisano last week, and I'm going to set up a conference call with him next week to talk about some issues, and I'll have a report for the next meeting on that.
Do you have anything for planning board?
No, just a couple of good appointments that the mayor had mentioned, so we've already been through that. The planning board is clicking along quite well, and same with the Board of Education. That's it.
Open space, Mr. Ferrante?
Nothing. Nothing at all for me.
Lake Environmental or Library?
Nope.
Okay, thank you. Safety Committee, Mr. Nicastro?
Waiting to see, there was a meeting scheduled for tomorrow night, waiting for confirmation, and nothing on economic development.
Okay. Senior Citizen, Mr. Mania?
Unfortunately, I wasn't able to attend the senior picnic, but as usual, it's always a success. And I want to thank all who participated, township employees, to make it a success. And hopefully I'll be able to attend next year.
Thank you very much. All right, since Ms. Laybaugh's not here, there'll be nothing for Pride or TNR. Okay, we're on to our last public portion. Does anyone from the public wish to be heard? Okay, seeing none. Okay, we're on to closing council comments. Mr. Perkins?
Nothing, Mr. President.
Mr. Mania?
Nothing.
Mr. Ferrante? Nicastro?
Just thanks again to Jill and her team with the carnival. Was just fantastic. I was there at least 3 days, and I heard nothing but good things from everyone. And it was a great job. A lot of people went, and a lot of residents were very happy. So thank you very much.
Okay. Mr. Walsh?
Great fireworks too, by the way. And that's it.
All right. And yeah, the carnival was a great success. I had the pleasure of being dunked, and unfortunately, based on the preliminary tallies, the mayor beat me in acquiring more donations than I did. I don't think that's an indication that he's liked more than me. I think people just wanted to dunk him more than me. And with that, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Meeting adjourned.